Welcome to DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next. The official podcast of the Diablo Valley College Alumni Association. As we celebrate 75 years of DVC's impact on education, careers, and community, we're honored to share the incredible journeys of alumni who've transformed their time on our vibrant campus into meaningful careers, community contributions, and personal success. Each Tuesday, we spotlight DVC alumni, from first-generation graduates to entrepreneurs, educators, and leaders who share the triumphs, challenges, and pivotal moments that shaped their lives. And on Thursdays, it's Resource Thursday. We dive into the programs, departments, and services that make DVC the supportive, dynamic community it is, exploring how they serve students and how you can connect with them. Whether you're a current student, recent graduate, or longtime alum, join us as we honor DVC's legacy and discover how our past continues to inspire the future. Thank you for being part of this journey. Be sure to tune in, subscribe, and celebrate with us. DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next. And now, join our host, alumni manager, Charlie Daly.
All right, and we are live now, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Morning. My name is Julianna Verde. I'm, I guess my current role is I'm a teacher at DVC. I'm teaching managerial accounting. This is my first time teaching at DVC. First of everything. First time teaching, first time at DVC, first time managerial accounting. All the firsts are happening here right now. I also I'm working at Sony PlayStation out in Foster City, although since March 13th of 2020, we have been at home. So that's part of what affords me the opportunity to also lend some time to DVC as a teacher. So
that's actually very exciting. So we'll get to that part because I think that's I mean one of those things that's kind of a full circle thing. So you grew up here in the Bay Area, is that correct?
yes, my father and mother actually are both from the Bay Area. My mom grew up in Concord. My father grew up in Walnut Creek. My father was a cadet in the Concord Police. So that's actually how he met my mother. So very local. I was born actually physically in Berkeley at Alta Bates Hospital, but at the time my parents lived in Walnut Creek, so that's where I grew up. Actually, I guess it's kind of unique. Also, same house for 18, 19 years until I moved out of my parents' house. Grew up in the exact same house, which is fun. It was a nice big place that we could run around and play in. And then, so yes, I went to it's a little private school called Palmer. It's there on Treat Boulevard in Walnut Creek. They actually, because of COVID, sadly, have closed down after I think 54 years of being in business. And then they're a feeder school into Carondelet High School. So I went to Carondelet High School. I loved Carondelet High School. A lot of people, like my sister, followed me. She didn't like the private education, but I loved the private education. Played water polo for them, did well with them, enjoyed the structure. Of course, private schools are very structured. Enjoyed the structure, met a lot of good people. And then, did you want me to keep going in my education or?
Absolutely.
Okay. So then, right out of high school, of course, I went to college, and my father wanted me to be a doctor. As I'm sure all parents, what is it? Doctor, lawyer, there's like the top three that parents want their kids to be. So I was all set to be a doctor. I went to USF, University of San Francisco, and I decided probably in the first class, but I'll say the first semester that I was not going to be a doctor. You're taking statistics, you're taking biology, you're taking chemistry all at the same time, very hard classes. So unfortunately, I actually dropped out after the first semester. But, for me, I say unfortunately only because my parents weren't super happy. But I think in the long run, it was a good thing that I realized that quickly that that's not the path that I wanted to take. So that's actually where DVC came in. I came back home and moved back home from San Francisco, back to Walnut Creek and applied to DVC. And, it was just to get my general education out of the way and then decide what I wanted to do with the rest of my life now that I wasn't going to be a doctor. I played around in maybe being a psychologist, somewhere along the medical field, so I didn't sidetrack too far. I was interested in it, but that didn't work out. So I actually left DVC also. Of no fault of DVC. Just still trying to figure out my life, not knowing where to go. So I ended up at Healed and was able to finish Healed successfully. And I had a couple of great teachers at Healed who were just really encouraging of, you seem to really grasp this. You seem to understand the business knowledge. You seem to understand the accounting knowledge. One of my teachers actually wanted me to be an accountant. And again, I quickly decided that CPA was not going to be the life for me. So, but I did finish the business part of it. I got my AA degree from Healed, which is now defunct. I'm sure people, I don't know if they
Oh,
even know what Healed is anymore.
so the AA part counts. The healed is like, yeah, it's you and I think we discussed that before we started. It's that was like, they're gone.
Yeah,
And
the only ones
yeah,
that know what that means anymore. Yes.
yeah.
So I had my AA degree, so I went into the workforce. I was like, well, if I'm doing well in business and I can find a good business job, then I'm done. That's great. That, being young, that sounds great. You're done with school. You don't ever have to go back to school after being in high school for 4 years and then college for probably what amounted to in the end of probably 3 years because I finished DVC in two and played around I finished Healed in two and played around at DVC for probably about a year. So I went into the workforce. I started working for Leapfrog. They're an educational toy company. They were located in Emeryville, Emeryville at the
Yeah.
time. Yes. Loved it. Loved my boss. A great job. Got promoted a couple times. So great trajectory. And then they too went out of business.
Well,
So
they were.
yeah, this was the economic downturn of 2008. And so we were all laid off. Eventually, they went on for a little bit, but they actually got bought out by VTech. So, but Leapfrog, as I knew it, is gone. So 2008 laid off during the Great Recession, and I, kind of lived off of unemployment for a minute. I was looking for a job, but was kind of again enjoying no school, no work. I took a second, for here's another point in my life where I've got to make a decision about how I want my life to look. And so I just ended up getting a job at the sheriff's office. I knew nobody there. I just applied. It is a very lengthy process to get on there. There's background checks. I believe I took two tests. There's many interviews. So that took a while. And all during this time, I'm still applying for other places, never knowing if I'm going to make it to the end round here. So I finally did. I was a dispatcher there, I think, again, what amounted for about 3 years. And that's a rewarding job. It's definitely takes a very special person to be a dispatcher. I give all of the praise to all of the dispatchers out there. But yeah, just wasn't I was doing well, but not again, this isn't what I wanted to do. And then my old boss from Leapfrog ended up calling me one day and he said, I got a job for you if you want it. And I was like, of course I want it. And he said, except for it's in San Mateo. And I was like, I don't even know where San Mateo is. You know, born and raised in Walnut Creek. I hadn't been that far out yet. So he actually made me take the drive before I committed to taking the job. So that's how I started at PlayStation. That was my beginning at PlayStation. I've been there now for, I think I'm in between my 14th and my 15th year at
Cool.
PlayStation. Love it. It's a great company.
So, so it sounds like, a lot of people, I want to frame this correctly because I have an opinion. A friend of mine told me that when one of my kids went to college and she changed majors 3 times, and he goes, no, that means the education's working because you went on to USF or UCSF, and it's like, I'm going to be a doctor, and in the first 15 minutes you're like, ooh, I don't think I'm going to do that,
Nope.
and it means the education's working. And same thing with DVC. A lot of people come here and they float around for a little while till they kind of figure it out. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things that DVC gives people a safe place to land for that. Now, you'd mentioned earlier before we started this little episode is that you come here for College for Kids. Talk about that a little bit, what that is, and kind of like how you ended up here.
Yeah. So again, growing up in the Bay Area and then right there at Walnut Creek, I think it's a 5-10 minute drive to DVC. And actually my parents both at some time in their life took a couple classes at DVC. So again, very familiar with the area, very familiar with the college. So my father, being a police officer, never let me spend a summer, relaxing or getting into trouble or anything like
Yeah.
that. So he was a huge proponent of the College for Kids. I think I even started in fourth grade. I was really young and took a couple, they do math classes, which I enjoyed. They did some art classes, which I really enjoyed. But I do remember talking about a story that won't ever forget is the first time that I went. So again, fourth grade, I think I'm 10, maybe. So I'm like, this is a college campus, Dad. How am I gonna, I'm again at Palmer. Palmer's probably the size of a house, compared to the size of DVC. So I was like, Dad, I'm really scared. I'm nervous for the first day. And I remember him saying, that's completely understandable. It is a big college. I'm gonna take you. We went on the weekend. And he's like, we're going to find out where your classes are. We already had all that information. And I remember he made a big deal about it. We went and got some breakfast. And then we went over and we walked all around the campus and we found my classes. And I just remember that fun experience with my father. I know it sounds like trivial, probably walking around a campus with your father, but it is one of the things that I look back on as a very nice memory that I have with him. And then, I continued on all the way actually through my freshman year of high school at Rondelet. I think that I went all the way through ninth grade. I remember taking a couple classes while I was, that summer there in the transition. So into ninth grade. And again, just I feel like it gave me, he was looking for the structure to keep me uh, out of trouble. But I think then I didn't lose that momentum during the summer. I had friends who came back that first day in August, and it takes them so much longer to get settled back down and get into the routine of studying and doing all that. And I think it always kept me in that educational mindset, in that learning mindset. And I like to say to this day that I feel like I am a lifetime learner. Which is hilarious because if you listen to the first part, totally didn't love college, didn't love learning, but now I call myself a lifetime learner. So I do think that that's probably also a testament to what you were saying that the education works. Just had to find the right what I wanted to learn about. So, but no, I shout out to College for Kids. They're a great program. They still have it today. I'm sure they offer different classes than they did when I took it, but I think it's a great program there at DVC for kids.
Cool. So you started off at Sony, and then at somewhere along the line, you ended up at Cal State East Bay, and then even East Carolina University, which, by the way, I do know where that is.
Okay,
Um,
good.
yes, and there's a whole story about that, but this isn't about me. So talk a little bit about it because that was more than a minute after you started at Sony. So what did you first
Yes.
start off doing at Sony? Because you went from dispatching, which you talked about is there's dispatchers don't get the credit that they deserve, I think,
No,
police dispatchers,
no,
because
no.
it's a tough job and they're it's a tough thing to do. So you went from that into working at PlayStation. So what did you do when you first started?
Yeah, really funny story though, before I get started. So you're right. I just came from this structured, again, raised by a police officer, all of this almost military kind of structure in my life. And I went to Sony, and they're a big corporation, but they're laid back. They're fun video game people. So my first boss there, or actually, I'm sorry, my boss that called me his boss, but our boss, um, maybe about a week in, she was like, "You have to stop standing when I come in the room." And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even notice I was doing that. But that's again, this is this mindset that I've grew up with. And I was just at the dispatcher when someone of a higher authority walks into the room, you stand. And she was like, thank you so much, for whatever accolades you've given me, just meeting me, but please stop standing when I enter a room. So, it's things like that that I had to adjust to being in the corporate world in a fun, loving environment, different, not that they're not loving, but, different structure than the sheriff's office was. But so yeah, at Sony, I started very on the ground floor, data entry. I was on the sales operations side, so it's basically getting the product out to the customer, Target, Walmart, Best Buy, GameStop. And it deals a little bit with supply, demand, forecast, because you have to make sure the group next to you gets you the product when you need it, and then that helps you then get it to Target when it needs it, you know. So that was my first introduction into supply chain, supply and demand. Again, not really my job, but that was my first introduction into those terms and those concepts. So my boss, you know, I had aspirations then. All of a sudden, I've got all these aspirations where before I didn't know what I wanted to be, you know, I dove into this corporate lifestyle. And so, you know, I told him one day, a little joking, but a little not joking, I wanted to be CEO one day. I wanted to be CEO of Sony. And he said, he was very encouraging. He's one of my best bosses I've ever had. He said, great, you probably need some more education. So he said, you know, you're building the real world experience, which is fabulous, you know, working here at Sony. And he was going to work with me to get promotions to get more experience. But, you know, he was like, you might as well go back and try to get the rest of your education. Because again, at this point, I still only have the 2 years from Healed really on a transcript. So I started looking into Cal State East Bay, but I didn't qualify because I didn't have all of those undergraduate GE credits. And so I was like, well, darn, where am I going to go? Back to DVC I went. So, which again, fabulous. It's right there. I still lived in Walnut Creek, was making the commute out to Foster City where Sony is, but still there in Walnut Creek. And so I got my AA in business to transfer. And that was another great thing that I loved about DVC is they have those transfer degrees that basically get you into Cal State East Bay, which is where I knew I already wanted to go. I had already researched, thinking I could step in there right, you know, on day one into Cal State East Bay. Um, so that was again really nice. I remember it's so funny they didn't have anything to do with business because again I'm getting my GE, but I had two really fabulous professors that I will never forget from DVC, and it's just so interesting how a really good professor will shape your life. And just to skip forward a little bit, I think that's part of why I'm so excited to be back at DVC teaching. Is sure I'm probably not on day one, but I would like to be one of those teachers that somebody looks back on and says, "My gosh, Professor Verde helped me so much with this subject," you know. And so one was a sociology teacher and one was an oceanography teacher. So not business related at all. Just very, again, supportive, intelligent, getting that mind working in whatever, you know, lesson field that we were talking about that day. And those were some of my two favorite classes. So again, got my AA business to transfer right over to Cal State East Bay. The only thing that I did pick up from DVC was that I did want to do online classes going forward. Just something, you know, I felt like when working also, you don't have tons of time. So, you know, I've got to work and then I was doing classes in person. At the time, that's pretty much all they offered. You know, now that they've got a lot of hybrid and online classes, but at the time, most of the classes were in person. And again, I feel like you get something. I had those two really great teachers, but it was just, again, at that point in my life, I wanted to continue with the education. I'm still commuting all the way to Foster City. And even though Cal State East Bay is in Hayward, I couldn't really work out getting to both of them physically. So I switched over to online classes at Cal State East Bay. I got my master's degree from there. I think it took me about maybe 2 years and some change. So again, this time I'm 4 years into my new education, my real education, and had a great experience at Cal State East Bay. But it's interesting right now that I'm reflecting on this. I can't say that I had any really profound teachers that I'm never going to forget, like I did at DVC. You know, I don't know if that's the homegrown. I don't know if I just got lucky. I don't know what that is about. But reflecting on it right now, I don't really have any two teachers or even one teacher that I would really remember from Cal State East Bay. So I finished that and then I went on to get my master's. I'm sorry, yeah, my master's degree. That was my undergraduate degree at Cal State East Bay. I said I got my master's degree. I went on to get my master's degree at ECU, East Carolina University. And again, I did some just research on the internet. I could have stayed at Cal State East Bay to get my master's. I chose not to. One, it was a little pricey. It's a little expensive when you get up to the master's degree. It's funny, they actually tell you, I went to an informational session, and one of the first things they tell you is they are one of the most expensive programs. The textbook is more expensive. The teacher time is more expensive. You have to take more classes in business, more expensive. So I heard that on the first day that they were talking about this program. So I was like, I'm going to go do some research into some other, well-established colleges, but a little less pricey. So I found ECU at the time, they were 10th ranked in the United States for online master MBAs. And I said, yeah, I like 10. 10's good.
Wow,
I
I
can
did
handle
not
that.
know that.
I know, I was surprised too. So I like to tell people that because, yeah, I'm sure lots of people don't know that. So for online MBAs, yeah, ranked 10th in the nation. And again, it's funny, I've had a couple good professors there, but this time I actually had a couple that I don't want to be like. So again, just in my journey of becoming a professor, I had some great ones that I want to model after. I learned some things that I don't want to do as a professor. And hopefully now I'm bringing this all full circle back to DVC to, hopefully be a good, profound professor that changes some lives here. I feel like it's that old saying, even if I help one student, I'll feel accomplished in my life, but maybe not helping people in managerial accounting, but
Well,
maybe
well,
eventually.
yeah, and I think your point about DVC, one of the things that I hear the story all the time is that the professors here, that they really care, if that makes
Mm,
sense. It's like it
yep,
matters to them. They're not doing it for the big bucks because they're hard hitting.
yep.
It's they don't get paid a ton of money for it, but they do it because of the love of it and the love of teaching. And it just that really comes across. And over again, I've heard stories about people that they were inspired by a teacher here, or their fire was lit for learning, much like you were talking about, in subjects completely unrelated to what you're doing now. But
Hmm.
still, it was that learning experience that really captured that, that really gave you that spark to move on to the next thing. So
Absolutely.
so you now got your MBA. Well, you've moved up in PlayStation. Talk about that for a moment, then we'll get back
Yes.
to you became Professor Verde.
Yes. Yeah, a couple, and a couple I do actually mean two. So I stayed on the sales side, under the boss who brought me over at Sony, and I got two promotions over there just out of merit. I was still in the middle of getting my degree. And actually Sony, little shout out to Sony if anybody wants to work there. They do actually they pay for your education. So they paid for all of my undergraduate and they paid for, I would say, 80% of my graduate. So that's really nice. So, but I took that as an opportunity once I finished my MBA to go to them and basically be like, you guys paid for this great piece of paper. Now let me come back and do something more for you. I was excited. I was like, I really want to get into some different areas. So they started giving me like side projects. So again on the supply demand thing, one of my side responsibility was where they saw a need was um, we were coming short in the forecast for software, and they really wanted me to figure out what was happening, what is the root cause of this, and they wanted me to go talk to everybody, which I love. And again, we're in the office, so I just made my round around the cubes and talked to everybody about what were the different problems, what were their challenges, what did they think could be fixed. And so I found a couple things that we could fix, but it really turned into an actual side job because then they wanted me to continue to watch this supply versus demand. Do we always have enough supply to meet the demand? And what I really enjoyed out of that was, one, it really got me the footing in the supply chain area. All of my emphasis for my schooling after DVC, so at Cal State East Bay and at East Carolina, were supply chain focused. I have a supply chain emphasis or a minor at those two schools. So it really did at that point develop my love for that. But it was really interesting to follow these forecasts, and a lot of it was just my gut knowledge that I had started to build from all this education. The different factors that could be going on. Was there a promotion at Best Buy that week that maybe we didn't know about? Was just a game we didn't like Spider-Man that took off. We didn't expect it. We expected it to do well. We didn't expect it to take off like it did. And we were chasing and chasing and chasing all of this, supply to meet this demand. And so again, just a fabulous experience in the world of logistics. And I feel like after COVID, everybody knows what the supply chain is now. And so that's been another, renewing in the supply chain world that people have this interest in what a supply chain is all of a sudden. So, so yeah, I really do feel like I used my MBA. I am using my MBA. I'm actually interviewing for another job right now at Sony because I went on, somebody told me you might as well go get your project management certificate. Project management is the new buzzword along with AI. They're like together in the business world. And so I was like, okay, let me go look at that. I went back to ECU because they offered a certificate. I took 4 classes in project management. So I have my project management certificate through them. So that opened up another opportunity at Sony that I'm interviewing for right now. And it is, I told my mother, I've got to break it down for mom here. It is literally like I'm going to go out and solve problems. They want me to go talk to different groups. They want me to talk to the logistics group. They want me to talk to the sales group. They do actually want me to go out to Best Buy, Target, and talk to them. And again, it's about their pain points. What would they like us to be doing? What could we offer them? And then what I thought was really interesting is we want to then implement massive change. So if Best Buy gives us a great suggestion and we're going to look at the costs and all that, it's got to be fundamentally good for us too. Then they want to roll it out to everybody. They want to make it a huge change initiative. And, I just love that because now I'm using the next part of the education that I went out and got and stepped forward in Sony. So to answer your original question, I think I've been promoted 2 times on the sales side, and then I went over to the operations side and I got promoted 2 more times over there. And then now I'm looking for this other job that I'm waiting to see if I got accepted. So more to come on that one.
Well, it's the continuing education part, I think, is a very important part because the thing is always be willing to take that next class or that next certificate or whatever it is you need to it's not just to get yourself a promotion, but it's to make yourself a better commodity in the job
Absolutely.
market. I
Absolutely.
love that you're going out and you sound more like sales than anything. It's like go ahead and find out what their pain point is and then figure out a way to
Yes.
address it. And that's one of the
Yeah.
things that I
And hopefully that is what is they're going to like about me is absolutely then I will be transferring back to the sales side. And I have a lot of those relationships already that I had built when I first came to the company. So I'm really looking forward to that if it comes through.
Yeah. So a couple other things, and then we'll get back to Professor Verde. So I'm
Uh-huh.
looking on your LinkedIn. So you're also you jumped into managing monitor forecast supply for Brazil region,
Mhm.
LATAM, which is the Latin American market, things like that. So how was that dealing with that? I mean, you dealing directly with those markets, and then I know that there's language barriers and cultural barriers and stuff like that. I don't want to call them barriers. There's cultural differences and
Yes.
kind of how they do things. So
Sure. So, my second boss, the boss on the operations side, when I came over, said, so they split it up into either you work on hardware, or you work on peripherals, or you work on software. He said he could split it up that way, or he could give me a whole region and then I would deal with everything, the hardware, software, and peripherals in that region. And I was like, well, that seems like a no-brainer to me. I want to learn everything, so I'll take the regions and learn everything about the business. And so, yes, to your point, it has been every single region is different. So it is, we do Uruguay, we do Brazil, we do Chile. So it is literally many different countries. Um, and so, funny little side story again about the cultural barriers. The people I work with in Brazil would sign off with like almost like a no worries, like we have no worries. And I went to my boss like after the fourth time that this happens, and we're on an email where there is something wrong, like we're discussing a problem, and they sign off with no worries. And I went to my boss and I was like, "This is really frustrating. I have worries, like." And I literally said that to him. I was like, "No, I have worries." And he started laughing hysterically. And he's like, actually, it's just a cultural sign off, like a thank you, goodbye. It's not, they really don't have worries, like they understand my stress point and we need to solve this issue. It's not that they're dismissing my worry at all. So that was, to your point, one of the cultural things that I have just encountered along the way is just some different phrases. And then another one was we were going through an Excel spreadsheet and I'm leading the call, but not manipulating the spreadsheet. So, you do the like scroll down. Could you scroll down for me? And they didn't move. And I was like, oh, can you guys hear me? And they were like, oh, yeah, we hear you. And I was like, okay, so could you scroll down for me? And they were like, what is this word scroll? And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Can you move down for me? Okay, thank you for telling me that. So, going forward now, can you move down for me? Can you move to the right? So that was another funny one that, you just start talking. And as you've probably noticed, I talk very fast. That I just threw out there and I'm like, why aren't they listening to me? Didn't understand the word I was using. But
Yeah,
no,
I
so
was gonna
go
say,
ahead.
I learned a long time ago back, oh my gosh, this is back in the 70s. I met a guy who had learned German. He knew no German, or he knew no English. He was from Germany, and he had learned German at Oxford University, or he learned English at Oxford University.
Oh, okay,
And
nice.
so for him, me being the West Coast teenager was like confusing as all get up because it was just I'd say things that he would look at me like, because he was using very proper English, and so
Of
it
course,
was
Oxford,
confusing to me.
absolutely.
Yeah. So you went through all this. You're having a great time. You're looking at your next possible promotion. We'll just we'll put the best into that. How
Thank
did
you.
you end up becoming Professor Verde?
So actually, this is more a comment on our social times. So sorry to take this little political for a minute. During the first Trump administration, we had tariffs. They had tariffs against China. We found a loophole, so it didn't totally affect us. So we did not have to raise our prices. This time we got the heads up from our legal team that the loophole would no longer apply to us, that basically they had closed the loophole because so many people were using it, so many corporations were using it. And China is one of our major suppliers. We get things from Japan also, but it's mostly China. So I saw the writing on the wall. I honestly, in all seriousness, even though I was just super excited about this new job, I may not have a new job next year. I That's a very huge reality for manufacturing companies in the United States right now. And just a little side notes on tariffs and manufacturing companies. Um, Everybody's global now. There is nobody that is the United States homegrown. They all have a global footprint. This will affect all manufacturing companies in the United States. That actually spurred me on. My boyfriend is a teacher, and and I've always heard that if you have your master's degree, you can be a teacher. I didn't quite believe it, but so I was like, I might as well start, get my toe in the pond of teaching. And I really wanted to teach business. And then, of course, again, I really wanted to go back to DVC and give back for all of the years that they have given me, again, starting with college for kids, getting my AA degree, even the little time that I was floundering around trying to be a psychologist. These were all moments at DVC that have spurred me forward to where I am now. So, and I was laughing at earlier when you said about the pay. It is really that because they kept asking me, like, it's not a good salary, it's not a big salary, don't count on that. It's the benefits and things that you get. And I was like, oh, no, that's absolutely why I'm here. It is just to further other education, other business people, like-minded business students. I'd love to see the next generation of business students coming up. I've got to tell you too, in my class, I have some very intelligent business students. I can't wait to see where they go. They're asking fabulous questions. So, but yeah, it's all very encouraging. So that's how I got back to DVC, excuse me, teaching business. And real quickly, too, a little side note about my staff here at DVC that I've been dealing with. Fabulous. Everybody set me up. Everybody was welcoming. I was afraid being a new teacher and not having any of the resources. I kind of got dumped in at the last minute too. They told me 17 days before the first day of teaching that I was gonna be teaching. So it was a bit of a scramble, but it all worked because the prior professor helped me, gave me all of his tools. The dean helped me get me set up with, just the logistics of setting up your Canvas and all of this. His support staff was very helpful. Alan was super helpful. Alan went out of his way multiple times to answer my questions. stupid or not stupid questions. But he always took out of his time to help me out and move me forward. And I was able to, I believe, successfully start on the 27th after only being, thrown in a couple of days before. And, even down to the people in the HR team, they processed my paperwork so quickly. And I kept being told, oh, it might not happen for a couple of weeks, all this. No, overnight almost. They're a great department, and the HR department even also. So already seeing the benefits and the reason why I came back to DVC. And I've, only taught 5 classes up to this point. So already seeing the benefits.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's fantastic. I think that the benefits of coming back to instruct, especially having gone through there, you understand where they're coming from, that they're still finding their feet, the students. And yeah, there are some unbelievably bright people that come through here. It amazes me on a constant basis. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So where do you see yourself? I mean, granted, it's like there's the supply chain issues, there's all the things going on there. Who knows at this point what's going to happen? I mean, it's pretty much up in the air. Let's imagine for a moment that, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah. So I'd love to be in the new role. I'd love to be out solving problems. Again, I feel like I'm really outgoing and an extrovert, and it disturbs me a little bit. And my, again, boyfriend noticed the difference of coming home and sitting in an office where I didn't get that interaction with people anymore. And so that affected, who I was personally. And I'm just so excited, even being back teaching, I'm just so excited about interacting with people. And then, so I am really excited. I hope to be in this new position. I hope to have, in 5 years, made some ground into the problems, changing some problems. I like the idea of, like you were saying, going to someone and being like, how can I make your day better? Like, that seems great to me. That seems like the best day, the best job ever is, how can I make your life better? Like, I have the power, tell me, you know? So hopefully doing that in 5 years. And then on the DVC side, I would actually, like to, they don't stress online classes as much anymore. They like to do the on the, in person. So I would like to actually have a mix. Maybe I could teach 2 in person and then have 2 online classes. So yeah, I would like to expand my repertoire at DVC and get some more classes. I am already signed up to teach an intro to business class in the fall, so that'll be fun too. So I'll have 2 subjects under my belt. So I think Alan teaches like 10 classes. I hope to be like him when I grow up. Like he's got a full roster. I love it. So, as long as it fits in with my Sony schedule, and I think it will, I'd like to add as many classes as they'll allow me to teach. It's fun. Again, I'm really enjoying interacting with the students, giving them knowledge. They're giving me knowledge. It's fabulous.
That's very exciting. And I know that, it's like, as adults, because I think we could agree that we're both adults. At least I like to pretend. My wife would probably disagree
Me
with
too.
that
I'll
some days,
pretend.
but but the thing is I've learned not to discount what I would think of as as a stupid question, because sometimes it's as simple as like, where do I find this? And we feel ourselves, we discount, oh my gosh, everybody's gonna think I'm dumb. And it's like, we're not, we just don't know that. Ignorance can always be cured, stupidity can. So yeah,
Agreed.
it's having the courage to ask that question that you think nobody has asked before. So, well, this has been a blast. I really appreciate it. We'll have to actually get together when you're on campus here, just to buy and say hi or something.
Yes, thank you. I had fun too. I didn't know what to expect. This is my first
Yeah,
podcast, so I had a lot of fun.
yeah. It's again, it's like it's pretty casual and stuff like that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And then maybe in a couple of years or so, we'll do a repeat, and you can put things on your promotion and your teacher credential now and all the other fun stuff.
Yes. Yes. See where I am in the 5 years. See if I've made it.
Yeah. So do you have anything that you want to close with, or?
Sure. And talking about being adult, I assume you have mostly students listening to your podcast, so I'll be an adult for a minute, but hopefully they listen to me. Hopefully, at least you learned today that education is important. Whether you do it right now, whether you wait for a minute to get into the job workforce. I also see some benefits of going to the job workforce. So I see benefits with both of going straight through or not, but education in the end is vitally important. And so I'll just say that and see, they probably turned me off now.
No,
But
we
yes,
get
I do want to close with that again. DVC has had such a phenomenal effect on my life, education and personality.
yeah. Well, great. Well, I want to thank you again for taking time out of your day. This has been fabulous. I've really
Of course.
enjoyed this, and then this will come out in a few weeks, and I'll send you a link when it does come out. It also gets posted on LinkedIn and stuff like that. So you'll be
Okay.
now a podcast guest. You'll be
Now
world
I'm in the
famous.
podcast world. Oh dear.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you
Wonderful.
again, and I
Thank you.
greatly appreciate it.
I appreciate your time too. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next, the official podcast of the Diablo Valley College Alumni Association, celebrating 75 years of DVC's incredible impact on education, careers, and community. We hope today's episode gave you valuable insights into the journeys of our alumni and the powerful resources available at DVC. Don't forget to join us every Tuesday for inspiring alumni stories, and on Resource Thursdays, where we spotlight DVC's departments and services, showing you how they're shaping student success. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and exploring the connections that make DVC's legacy so special. And remember, DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next.